You ever notice how you can have a completely free day? Nothing on your schedule, no deadlines breathing down your neck, and somehow you still feel like you're running out of time? Like there's this invisible clock ticking in the background and you can't shut it off? Yeah, that's not just you being paranoid. There's actually a reason your brain does this, and it's way more messed up than you think. So today, we're going to dig into why time feels like it's slipping through your fingers even when you literally have all the time in the world. And I'm going to show you what's really happening in your head when this happens. Because once you understand it, you can actually do something about it. This isn't about time management tips or productivity hacks. This is about why your relationship with time is completely broken and what that says about how you see yourself. Let's start with something you've definitely experienced. You wake up on a Saturday. No work, no appointments, nothing you have to do. You should feel relaxed, right? But instead, there's this weird anxiety sitting in your chest. You look at the clock, and it's 9 in the morning. You think to yourself, okay, I have the whole day. But then you scroll on your phone for a bit, maybe make some breakfast, and suddenly it's 11. And now that anxiety gets a little louder. You tell yourself you're going to do something productive. Maybe you'll finally start that project you've been thinking about. Maybe you'll go to the gym. Maybe you'll read that book that's been sitting on your shelf for 6 months. But you don't. You keep scrolling, you watch some videos, you check your messages, and before you know it, it's 3 in the afternoon and you haven't done anything. And here's where it gets really weird. You start feeling guilty. Not because anyone is mad at you, not because you missed a deadline, but because you feel like you wasted time. Even though nothing was urgent, even though you had no obligations, you feel like you're behind on something, but you can't even explain what that something is. So, what's going on here? Why does your brain create this fake sense of urgency when there's literally nothing urgent happening? The first thing you need to understand is that humans are terrible at perceiving time, like genuinely bad at it. We don't experience time the way a clock measures it. We experience time based on how we feel. When you're having fun, time flies. When you're bored, it drags. You already know this, but what you might not know is that your brain is constantly comparing your present moment to an imagined future, and that comparison is what creates this feeling of running out of time. Think about it like this. Every single day, you wake up with some vague idea of who you want to be. Maybe you want to be the kind of person who works out, or the kind of person who's creative, or the kind of person who has their life together. You don't consciously think about this most of the time, but it's there in the background. It's this ideal version of yourself that you're always measuring your actual self against. And every moment you're not actively becoming that ideal version, your brain interprets it as falling behind. That's where the anxiety comes from. It's not about the time itself. It's about the gap between who you are and who you think you should be. And that gap feels like a debt you can never pay off. Now here's where it gets even more complicated. We live in a world that's obsessed with productivity. Everywhere you look, someone is telling you to optimize your time, to hustle harder, to make every second count. Your social media feed is full of people who seem to have it all figured out. They're waking up at 5 in the morning, they're running businesses, they're in perfect shape, they're traveling the world. And your brain sees that and goes, wait, why am I not doing that? But here's the thing, that comparison isn't fair. You're comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. But your brain doesn't care about fairness, it just sees the gap and freaks out. And this is where the fake urgency comes from. Your brain thinks, if I don't start being productive right now, I'm going to fall so far behind that I'll never catch up. It doesn't matter that there's no actual deadline. The deadline is this imagined future where you finally become the person you want to be. And every day that passes without you getting closer to that feels like failure. Let's talk about another layer to this. There's a concept in psychology called temporal discounting. Basically, your brain values immediate rewards way more than future rewards. If I offered you $10 right now, or $20 next week, most people would take the $10 right now, even though waiting would give them more. Your brain is wired to prioritize the present. But here's the twist. When it comes to feeling productive, your brain does the opposite. It devalues what you're doing right now and overvalues what you could be doing in the future. So when you're relaxing, your brain isn't thinking, hey, rest is valuable. It's thinking you could be doing something more important. And that creates this constant background noise of guilt and anxiety. You know what else makes this worse? Choice overload. You have more options available to you right now than any generation in human history. You can learn anything online. You can start a business from your bedroom. You can connect with people across the world. And while that's amazing in theory, in practice, it's paralyzing. Because now, every moment you're not taking advantage of those opportunities feels like a waste. You're not just competing with the people in your town or your school or your workplace. You're competing with everyone, everywhere, all at once. And your brain can't handle that, so it just defaults to anxiety. Let me give you a specific example. Say you decide to watch a movie. Just a normal movie on a random afternoon. 30 years ago, that would have been a totally normal thing to do. You'd put on a movie, watch it, and that would be that. But now while you're watching that movie, there's a voice in your head going, you could be learning a new skill right now. You could be working on a side project. You could be exercising. You could be doing something that actually matters. And suddenly watching a movie isn't just watching a movie anymore. It's a moral failure. Because you've internalized this idea that every moment needs to be optimized, every hour needs to be productive, and anything less than that is laziness. But here's the really messed up part. Even when you are being productive, it still doesn't feel like enough. You finish a task, and instead of feeling satisfied, you immediately think about the next task. You cross something off your to-do list, and your brain just adds 3 more things. The finish line keeps moving. The sense of I'm running out of time never actually goes away, no matter how much you do. And that's because the problem isn't about time at all. It's about identity. See, somewhere along the way, you started believing that your worth as a person is tied to what you accomplish. You started thinking that if you're not constantly achieving, constantly improving, constantly doing more, then you're not valuable. And when you internalize that belief, every moment of rest feels like evidence that you're not good enough. This ties into something called the hedonic treadmill. It's the idea that no matter what you achieve, you quickly adapt to it and then want more. You get a promotion, and for a week you feel great. But then that becomes your new normal, and you start thinking about the next promotion. You hit a fitness goal, and for a moment you're satisfied. But then you set a new goal, and the satisfaction disappears. Your brain is designed to keep you chasing the next thing. And when you combine that with a culture that glorifies busyness, you get this toxic loop where you never feel like you have enough time because you never feel like you've done enough. Let's talk about another angle to this: future-oriented thinking. Human beings are unique in our ability to imagine the future. We can plan, we can set goals, we can envision a version of our lives that doesn't exist yet. And that's a superpower, but it's also a curse. Because when you're constantly thinking about the future, you stop being present. You stop appreciating what's happening right now because you're too busy worrying about what needs to happen later. And the irony is, that future you're so worried about, it never actually arrives. Because when you get there, you're still thinking about the next future. You're always living in tomorrow, which means you're never actually living at all. There's also this thing called time anxiety, and it's becoming more and more common, especially among younger people. It's this persistent feeling that time is slipping away, that you're getting older without accomplishing what you want, that you're somehow behind schedule on a timeline that doesn't even exist. And social media makes this so much worse. You see people your age or younger who seem to have already achieved everything you're still working toward. You see 18-year-olds running companies, 22-year-olds buying houses, 25-year-olds retiring. And your brain goes, what am I doing with my life? But here's what you're not seeing. You're not seeing the failures, the setbacks, the mental breakdowns, the support systems, the luck, the privilege. You're just seeing the end result, and you're comparing it to where you are right now. And that comparison is destroying your sense of time.
Now, let's get into something a little deeper. Existential anxiety. This is the big one. At the core of all of this, there's a fear that you're going to run out of time before you do something meaningful, before you become someone significant, before you matter. Because deep down, you know that time is finite. You know that you're not going to live forever. And somewhere in your subconscious, there's this question. What am I doing with the time I have? And when you don't have a good answer to that question, your brain panics. It creates this fake urgency to try to motivate you to do something, anything, that feels meaningful. But because you don't actually know what meaningful means to you, you just end up spinning your wheels, feeling anxious, and getting nowhere. Here's another thing, the paradox of free time. You'd think that having more free time would make you feel less rushed, right? But studies have shown the opposite. When people have too much unstructured time, they actually feel more anxious about wasting it. It's like when you have a deadline, you know exactly what you need to do. But when you have all the time in the world, you don't know where to start, so you end up doing nothing and feeling guilty about it. This is why people who retire sometimes feel more stressed than when they were working. They suddenly have all this time, but they don't know what to do with it. And that creates a sense of purposelessness, which feeds into that feeling of time running out. Let me throw one more idea at you. The busy as status phenomenon. In modern culture, being busy has become a status symbol. When someone asks how you're doing, the default answer is busy. Because if you say, oh, I'm not doing much, people assume you're lazy or unsuccessful. We've somehow convinced ourselves that busy equals important. And when you buy into that, you start feeling like you need to be busy all the time, even when there's nothing urgent. Because if you're not busy, then what are you? What's your excuse for existing? So you create fake urgency. You pile tasks onto your plate, you overschedule yourself, you say yes to things you don't want to do just so you can feel like you're doing something. And then you wonder why you're exhausted and burnt out. So here's the big realization. The feeling that you're running out of time isn't about time at all. It's about fear. Fear that you're not good enough. Fear that you're wasting your life. Fear that you won't become who you want to be before it's too late. And the reason that fear never goes away, no matter how productive you are, is because you're trying to solve an internal problem with external actions. You think if you just do more, achieve more, accomplish more, then you'll finally feel okay. But you won't, because the problem isn't what you're doing, it's how you see yourself. You've tied your worth to your productivity, and as long as that connection exists, you're never going to feel like you have enough time. Because there will always be more to do. The to-do list will never end. The goals will keep shifting. The finish line will keep moving. And the only way to break that cycle is to stop measuring your value by what you accomplish and start measuring it by who you are. Not who you will be, not who you should be, but who you are right now, in this moment. Because here's the truth. You are not running out of time. You have exactly the amount of time you have, and that's okay. You don't need to optimize every second. You don't need to be productive every moment. You don't need to constantly prove that you're worth something. You're allowed to exist without justifying your existence. You're allowed to rest without feeling guilty. You're allowed to do nothing and still be valuable. Look, I'm not saying you should stop setting goals or stop trying to improve yourself. Growth is important, progress is important, but it can't come at the cost of your mental health. It can't come at the cost of your ability to enjoy the present moment. The feeling that you're running out of time is a symptom of a deeper problem. It's a sign that you've lost touch with what actually matters. And what actually matters isn't how much you achieve, it's how you feel while you're alive. So next time you feel that anxiety, that sense of urgency when nothing is urgent, ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? And then ask yourself if that fear is based on reality or if it's based on an impossible standard you've set for yourself. Because chances are you're doing better than you think. You're not behind, you're not running out of time, you're exactly where you need to be. And that's enough. Watch the next one. I'll upload it soon. Make sure to subscribe for more.